Hey everyone, it's Dan from Proguides here, bringing you a way to make laning disgustingly easy. In this video, we will be breaking down how to take advantage of hiding your hero on the map and what that entails. By effectively hiding your position on the map, you can secure lanes by getting key pickoffs. With easy lanes, this can transition into stomping a game. How is it possible to do this? Well, this play is both easy and hard. The easy part of this trick is positioning your hero in trees, but the harder part is knowing the strengths and weaknesses of not only your team, but also of the enemy team. Before we get into the video though, here is the question of the day. What hero do you want nerfed to the ground? Now, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. One of the easier ways to win a lane is by taking advantage of the fact that in pubs, people are usually expecting a dual lane. So when you are 3 heroes in a lane before the creeps arrive, this is a great time to get a kill on an enemy hero, whether that be a support or a core. If you want to be extra annoying, after you kill them, wait for them to TP back to the lane and kill them again. After applying this pressure, the lane is so much easier for your teammates. It is pretty much a guaranteed one lane, barring counter matchups, etc. Now that the lane is won, a rotation can be made to the side lane that has your solo teammate going at it against a dual lane. At this point, with the extra gold from the kills that was secured from before, you were able to apply great pressure to help your teammate that was forced to solo for some time. Before the support reveals themselves though, when rotating to the solo core, they can do what they did in the other lane. Essentially, bait the core with the support hiding in the tree, then swing around when an enemy hero, either support or core, are out of position. Ideally, this secures a kill for your teammate that was solo. At this point, the enemy team is feeling the pressure. Now, 2 lanes can be winning instead of going even or losing. With winning lanes comes more freedom. The support now can rotate mid for the power runes that spawn starting from minute 4. Again, ideally the support is able to help secure a kill on the enemy mid laner. In a perfect world, by hiding a support's presence in the first few minutes, your team can potentially snowball to win 3 lanes. This is fantastic, but how do you know that you can apply this pressure? Because Dota is so situational, we will be using scenarios where you should try lane, where you shouldn't try lane, and what to do with losing matchups. Your team is Sven, Crystal Maiden, Earth Spirit, Invoker, and Slardar. The enemy team is Spectre, Warlock, Void Spirit, Phoenix, and Sand King. Either of these teams could do a tri-lane to start with, but we will focus on the team with Sven to tri-lane. The supports can start in either Slardar's lane or Sven's lane. Let's take a closer look at the side lane cores. Sven has access to a stun, so does Slardar, but at level 1, Slardar will usually go bash, especially to be a bully against Spectre. Now, looking at the enemy supports, Phoenix doesn't get Icarus dive level 1 usually, so that hero is a sitting duck, and Warlock dies without question against the aggression from a Crystal Maiden, Earth Spirit, and Slardar. So either hiding before the lane starts or by going for a kill of the bounty runes will be easy pickoffs for this trio. The supports can hide again to kill the Warlock again, or to kill Spectre. If Team Sven is able to kill Spectre, then they can once again wait hiding in the trees until Spectre uses her TP to then kill her again. Now, with the lane secured, Crystal Maiden can rotate top, preferably with Earth Spirit, but even without Earth Spirit, Crystal Maiden can do so much damage to the lane that Sven is in. Crystal Maiden has access to a root in her arsenal, which Phoenix shudders at, so with a frostbite into a Sven Stormhammer, Phoenix dies despite having Icarus dive. Sand King likes sitting in his comfortable sandstorm, but at the early levels, he too is a sitting duck when you have detection. He can easily feed to a root and a stun coming from the Sven and Crystal Maiden. With either of these heroes dying, and ideally killing them again after they TP, this other lane is too easy as well. At this advantageous point, the support can stack for the core, and the core can jungle at a sickening rapid rate. An additional snowball would be for either Earth Spirit or Crystal Maiden, or even both, to rotate mid to kill the vulnerable Void Spirit. Ideally, this rotation happens before Void Spirit is level 6, but even if he is level 6, Earth Spirit has access to a silence, and Crystal Maiden has a root to hold Void Spirit in place. If the supports are able to help Invokers secure a kill on Void Spirit, the game is pretty much over for Team Spectre. In this game, the game looked quite favorable for Team Sven because they had strong early aggression, with many stuns that are powerful versus Team Spectre. When considering whether to try lane or not, consider how many stuns your team has, what nukes and what slows your team has. With that being said, you also have to consider the same thing for the enemy team. What is their potential compared to yours? If you think yours is stronger, that is the time to apply pressure and hide in those trees. But what do you do if your spells are equal to the enemy team's spells? This is where we will examine scenario 2 in order to see what potential a team has when the lane matchups are rather even. Your team is Enigma, Clockwork, Jakiro, Spectre, and Magnus. The enemy team is Terrorblade, Oracle, Tusk, Death Prophet, and Venno. Tusk and Venno are incredibly scary to go up against level 1, especially against Team Enigma. Spectre doesn't want to engage in combat at level 1, neither does Magnus nor Enigma. In other words, you definitely don't want to force a tri-lane in this particular game. It is not suitable with the passive cores that you have, despite Clockwork and Jakiro being one of the best heroes of trading at level 1. In fact, I think it would make your game worse to force a tri-lane in this situation. Your supports would die, which would lead to an underfarmed Spectre, and Enigma would be vulnerable to getting dove under his tower without having Clockwork in the vicinity to protect him. As an alternative, it would be more beneficial to prioritize stacking, rather than trying to go for early kills. The early game will be extremely passive besides the lane where Venno and Tusk want to apply pressure, and Enigma will not want you to take his experience as the wave will come to his tower because he is denying ranged creeps with demonic conversion. In these types of games, as a support, it can feel as though you're doing nothing, but don't feel that way. If your cores are farming well, that is exactly what you want. Not to mention that as a support, you can accelerate their farming speed by getting them as many stacks as you can possibly afford to without leaving your cores vulnerable to ganks. In other words, be mindful of what your team is capable of and respect the enemy team's aggression capabilities. This does take time to master because of all the different possible combinations that are possible in Dota, but by thinking about it every single game, it becomes easier and easier to implement into your gameplay. The right decision in the early game can make the difference between a won and a lost game. Not only that, but the game can be significantly easier if you're able to recognize the strengths and weaknesses of your team and the enemy team. How about a situation where your lanes are favored to lose? Let's look at another scenario. Your team is Pudge, Rubik, Terrorblade, Invoker, and Axe. The enemy team is Monkey King, Bat Rider, Lich, Morphling, and Mirana. It's easy to spot that Axe will have a bad time against Monkey King, and Terrorblade will not have a good time against Bat Rider. In this particular game, Team Pudge wants to dodge the Terrorblade versus Bat Rider matchup at all costs. Tri-laning wouldn't be effective for Team Pudge, not against the immense early strength of Team Monkey King. Whenever the lanes are this atrocious, try your best to get lane swaps. Otherwise, the enemy team may be able to stomp you right off the bat. Simply put, be aware of the hard counters to your heroes. With that said, Axe and Pudge aren't the best to deal with a Bat Rider and Mirana. In fact, it will probably still be a lost lane, but at least the game won't be lost because Terrorblade can have a game by laning against Monkey King and Lich. Again, Terrorblade isn't happy in this matchup either, but the Terrorblade can quickly and safely transition to his jungle in order to escape the wrath of Team Monkey King. Meanwhile, at mid, Invoker will be doing mediocre versus the Morphling. Neither are able to kill each other, and Morphling doesn't have a setup for an arrow, which means that it will be hard to gank Invoker with a Mirana. In other words, there won't be much pressure applied to mid. Invoker will truly change the tempo of this game since the other two lanes weren't promising. Eventually, over time, Invoker and Terrorblade are an insane combo that will be able to win Team Pudge some teamfights. Just because the lanes are less than desirable doesn't mean the game is over, but you do have to adjust accordingly. In the worst case scenario, such as the one above, do everything in your ability to avoid hard counter matchups. Otherwise, you could quickly lose games. That being said, Invoker and Terrorblade is a broken combo in the meta right now that has amazing comeback capability. Even with having two losing matchups, this game could still be turned around into a victory by avoiding the hard counter matchups. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video on how to win games with a single play. I hope this play will help you secure some easy MMR. This play is quite easy to execute once you understand the harder element to it, which is basically understanding the early power spikes of different heroes. Thanks again for watching, and I will see all of you in our next video.